So this is what the view of your home in California is right now. Wasn't always this way, and you paid a lot of money to live in a great neighborhood. Unfortunately, fire has completely gutted it. It's a terrible situation, and you've seen enough. You're ready to get out of California entirely, or maybe you're just ready to get out of Los Angeles. It doesn't matter. You're right now. All you have left is your family, maybe your pets. Everything else is gone. It's just gone, and you don't know where to start. Well, one thing you could have done is, listen when somebody calls you up and says, "Hey, I'd like to buy your property." Uh, might not be a lot of money, but at this point, you just don't really care, do you? You just want out. I mean, why wouldn't you want out? I mean, holy crap! Look at what's happening, and this isn't new. There's just one problem. They can't call you up and offer whatever. I mean, theoretically, they can make the call and they can make the offer. They can make an offer, I should say. Allow Governor Gavin Newsom to explain.
I'm here in Altadena. I just signed an executive order with community leaders to deal with the issue that is becoming a bigger and bigger issue every day, and that's land developers that are engaging in predatory efforts to make unsolicited offers for properties at significantly below market value. This predatory behavior is disgusting in the best of times, and of course here in the midst of this tragedy at scale, it's disgraceful. So we're going to hold those folks accountable. I'm very grateful for the leadership here in the community that promoted this approach, and this executive order is a reflection of their direction and their commitment to preserving the unique character of this community for generations to come.
All right, so that's Newsom's take, but on Twitter, or X, whatever you want to call it, he made the comment that this is now prosecutable. Now, of course, I'm not sure how an executive order can be prosecutable, but then again, this is California. Who the hell knows what they think of constitutional law? Here's the problem. First, the houses are gone, right? There's nothing there but at most ruins, and in some cases, it's just the foundation. Right. The fire came through, destroyed just about everything. There's nothing really to rebuild with. Even those foundations are going to have to be torn up, relaid, have plumbing reworked, everything. And that's a lot of work. That's a lot of money. And a lot of insurance companies that were insuring these houses, sure, they're going to pay, but how much? And how many of them are going to remain solvent after a disaster like this? It's a bad situation in general. And the problem is Newsom doesn't talk about what is a fair price. Who's going to determine which prices are fair and which are too low? This becomes a problem because, if I'm a company if I'm a developer, for example, and I want to, make a call and go, hey, we'd like to buy your property. Am I offering something that the state of California will say is too low, or am I offering what's a reasonable market value? Keep in mind, with the house gone, all that's really valuable now is the land. That cost is going to be lower. That dollar amount of value is going to be lower. And keep in mind, like Pacific Palisades, these are multi-million dollar homes. I took a look on Zillow, and the cheapest one I saw just, moving around on there was $2.3 million for a house based on square footage and everything else. That would be $250,000 to $500,000 here in Albany, Georgia. You're not going to get $2.3 million for a patch of dirt. Not at that size. Not at that size. Now, you talking like a ranch or a farm, sure, but that's a lot of land. These lots, they're not that big. You're not going to get that kind of money. And so a lot of these companies they're not going to reach out. They're not going to reach out because they don't want to be accused of making lowball offers because the value's not there anymore. And if you're somebody who will take whatever offer, you just want out, you just can't do it, right? You're not going to get that phone call. You can call them and say, yeah, I'll sell it to you for $50. It's legal, but who's going to do that? And that's only if they're interested in buying land right there. Not every developer is looking at that with dollar signs in their eyes, because all of this is California's fault. All of it. It's their fault that people are in this position, and now Newsom's executive order makes it harder for some who may want to get out of the situation. Let's break this down a little bit. The last reservoir in Southern California was built in 1979, right? That's a long, we're looking at 45 years now. That's a long time, right? There's a lot of people who have been born, lived their lives, had families. Maybe you're getting to the age of starting to have grandchildren who were born after that last reservoir. One of those is my wife. I was born quite a few years before then, but my wife's a bit younger than me. She wasn't born until 1980, meaning every reservoir in the state of California is older than my wife. But it didn't have to be that way. In 2014, California voters approved a bond referendum. The idea was to make new reservoirs and dams, and it was going to be completed by January 1st, 2022. I know that it feels like it was just yesterday, but it wasn't. That was 3 years ago when it should have been finished. No reservoirs have been done. No new dams have been built. In fact, California is actually rolling back dams. The Klamath Dam was removed in 2023. The Scott Dam is next. And this is the beautiful part. The reason they're taking the dam apart, the reason they're removing the dam is to improve salmon habitat. Now, it's going to cause all kinds of problems with farmers in the area. It's going to make it harder to fight fires, things like that. And they're worried about salmon. This isn't the only fish that they're preoccupied with. There's one called the Delta smelt, if I remember right. It's like a 3-inch long fish. It was considered important because it was a gauge for the health of a river. Could not dam it up. You couldn't do anything because that fish was so important. It was so absolutely important, and it's pretty much extinct. Functionally, it is. It only exists in some hatcheries that are specifically set up to try to keep these fish alive. It didn't do it. Didn't make it. Despite that, and despite people's homes, let's keep in mind that they also knew this was happening. They knew this was coming. Okay, wildfires in the Los Angeles area aren't new. Check out this picture. I got this from the University of California in Irvine. It's from a report about wildfires. From 1920 to 1999, most of the wildfires in California were confined to the Los Angeles area, right? They still popped up everywhere else, but most of them were in the Los Angeles area. Why? Well, the weather cycle is cyclical. You've got a lot of dry season followed by torrential downpours. So you get enough rain to get underbrush, to get trees, to get all the things that can burn. And then you get long spans where you've got everything dries up, meaning it's a tinderbox. It's just waiting to happen. In 2000, something changed. You started to see fires all over. Now, we could argue about what that reasoning is. Obviously, some people are going to say climate change. Some people are going to point out a lot of forest management practices went out the window around that time. Whatever reason, it kept going, right? The fires got more common. But look in the Los Angeles area on that map again. It's still there, right? It's not that the fires moved. They just happened more often and got worse in other places. Los Angeles, it's spread out a little bit, but it's still intense. They knew this was a thing, right? They knew the Santa Ana winds were coming in. They knew that things had been dry. They knew it was a recipe for a wildfire. The state did this. Then we find out that the Los Angeles Fire Department held back some firefighters from trying to deal with the blaze for whatever reason. thereby contributing to the inability to keep the fire at bay. So when you look at all this, it's not difficult to see why someone might want to get up and leave the state. I sure as shit would, right? But Newsom's executive order doesn't really address any of the underlying problems. Now, I agree, people calling up, making lowball offers just out of the blue, little creepy. Every time I get a phone call asking me to buy, if someone can buy my home, it's scummy, right? It feels very, very sleazy to me in general. But people have the ability to say no. They can tell these people, no, leave me alone. I'm not selling for that price. I'm not selling at all. You can negotiate. I won't sell for that price, but I'll sell for this price. They'll either pay it or they won't. People have the ability to make decisions for themselves. And this idea that, oh no, you can't make a lowball offer, especially when you're not actually telling anybody what the hell a lowball offer is a problem. And, it's just another case of Gavin Newsom overstepping to try to cover his butt. Because if he makes it out where the developers are the bad guys instead of his complete inability to do his job, well, he might get reelected to something sometime, somewhere. What you gonna do? It's California, land of, insanity. And with that, I'm gonna call it a day because, talking about these fires is depressing. It really is. But I got to call them as I see them. And if Gavin Newsom's going to keep doing stupid stuff, I'm going to keep talking about it, at least for a little while. I really hope he keeps his mouth shut for a change. It'd be a nice change of pace. So until next time, guys, you all take care.